Hello students, today we are going to talk about the topic sources of harmful radiation and harmful effects of this radiation. And we will also discuss about the safety precautions that should be taken while using nuclear energy. Before going ahead with the topic, if you want to improve and excel in maths and science, then do check out the micro courses which are offered by Infinity Learn. And don't forget to use the coupon code HQ10 for additional 10% discount. For more information, do check out the link in the description. Now, going back to the topic, let us quickly understand what are the main sources of the harmful radiation. First, we have radioactive fallout from the nuclear power plants. Second, we have the nuclear waste which are generated from these nuclear power plants. And finally, we have other sources such as cosmic radiation and X-rays. Let us quickly discuss them one by one. Now, as we know, electricity in our world is majorly dependent on nuclear power plants. Now, if there is some accident in these nuclear reactor and a large amount of radioactive material or radiation escapes in the atmosphere, they will affect the population nearby and also at large distances. Three such incidents have already happened. One in USA, the other one is in Russia, which was previously USSR, and third one in Japan in 2011. These accidents, they caused damage to the reactor buildings. They injured the person working in the plants as well as the person which were in the vicinity of the plants. Next we have is nuclear waste, in which we have fuel rods which are used in the nuclear power plants. Now these fuel rods are rejected after a certain time when their activity decreases below a certain required level. Then they are not useful for production of electricity in the plants and they become a nuclear waste. The thing is that they are still very radioactive and they are the source of harmful radiations, so they can't be dumped in open garbage and they can contaminate water, soil and affect the human and living organism. And lastly, we have cosmic radiation, which is entering the earth's surface from the sun and from the outer space. These radiations, they have large number of energy particles, out of which majority are already deviated by earth ka magnetic field, but a substantial amount of uncharged radiation like gamma rays and x-rays, they reach the earth ka surface and they are quite harmful for human beings. Apart from this, we also have high energy particle accelerators which produce harmful X-rays. After understanding the sources of harmful radiation, let us quickly understand the harmful effects of radiation. The first very harmful effect of radiation is the biological effect that it has. The radiation produced in reactions which has alpha, beta and gamma radiations, even neutrons and X-rays, they interact with the human tissues and cause biological damages. Now these biological damages can be of short term and they are recoverable effects, in which people only experience effects like nausea, diarrhea, sore throat, loss of hair, etc. And this happens only when the exposure is for a very small amount of time or low levels of radiations. Second, there are long term irrecoverable effects where the effect is chronic in the case of person, normally for person who is working in the plant and is exposed to the radiation, and it can lead to things like cancer and leukemia. And finally, the third type of effect is genetic effect. It is observed in the coming generations, next generations of person who were already exposed to radiations, and it happens because the genes in the living cells get modified after this exposure. Now the next harmful effects are when the pregnant woman is exposed to x-rays for a long time and it affects the health of the child in the womb. This increases the risk of cancer by 40%, of tumor by 50%, and of leukemia by almost 70%. So it's a very harmful effect. And the exposure of upper part of the body to X-rays can also damage the thyroid gland and once again cause cancer. The exposure of gamma rays is also harmful, and it can destroy the cells of the body and affects the blood cells, gastrointestinal tract, reproductive and hair cells, etc. Safety precautions while using nuclear energy. We know that for producing electricity, the power plants they use radioactive sources like uranium or plutonium, and there is this control chain reaction which is carried out, and they require special care. First, safety measure should be taken while establishing a nuclear power plant. Second, handling of the radioactive material should be taken care of, and finally safety measures should be taken for safe disposal of the nuclear waste which is generated. So let us talk about them one by one. While establishing a nuclear power plant, we should ensure that people are not exposed to these radiation, and in case there is a accident, the spread of the radiation should be minimum. Second, the nuclear reactor must be shielded with lead and steel walls so as to avoid the radiation from escaping into the environment. Next, the entire nuclear reactor must be housed in a airtight building, and this building should have a strong concrete structure which can withstand earthquake, explosion, fire, etc. And lastly, we know that a lot of heat is generated in the nuclear power plant from which energy is produced. We should have a backup of the existing cooling system. So in case of failure of first system, the backup can save the reactor from heating and melting. Second part is handling the radioactive material. So the people who are handling the radioactive material should wear specialized aprons and gloves which has lead lining in it. They should also handle the radioactive material with long lead tongs. Third, the safety limit is already known for every type of radiation, and therefore care must be taken that nobody is exposed above the safety limit, and for this a special film badges are used and are tested from time to time to know the amount of exposure. Finally, the radioactive substance must be kept in a thick lead container which has a very narrow opening so that the walls of the container can absorb the maximum radiations. Third case is where we take care about the disposal of this nuclear waste. So nuclear waste are generated after the radioactive material are used for power generation, and they comes from hospitals, labs, scientific establishment, power plants, etc. They should be kept in thick casks, and they must be buried in specially constructed underground stores, and these stores should be quite far away from the populated area. These can even be buried in the useless mines, and mine must be sealed after storing these casks. So these are the safety precautions that we should take care by using nuclear energy. Lastly, let us talk about the background radiation. So what are background radiation? These are the radioactive radiations to which we are all exposed even in the absence of any visible radioactive source. There are two types of sources in this case. First is internal source, internal to our body. So we have isotope of carbon, carbon C14, and isotope of potassium K40, which are radioactive and present inside our body. There is also radium which is present in our body, mostly in our bones. Then we have external sources. External sources are like the cosmic rays that we already discussed, which enters the Earth's atmosphere. And then we have naturally occurring radioactive elements such as radon and other solar radiations. Now it is not possible to keep ourselves away from the background radiation, but good thing is the total background radiation from both the internal and external sources, they do not exceed the maximum permissible dose for human safety, and therefore we need not worry about it. I hope this topic is clear to everyone. Thank you very much.